pornirea partidei. Delgado acolo este. Va fi corner, dragi ascultători.
Hello everybody and welcome back to Val Verde Broadcasting. In a break from the usual format, which is becoming a low-key catchphrase, we're going to do 3 trailers. It's a trailer roundup instead of just discussing one trailer. So in half an hour, we're going to discuss 3 different trailers. Various things have hit this week and last week. I think the big one yesterday, which was kind of a surprise, was the new Ghostbusters trailer for Ghostbusters Afterlife. We're going to be discussing in the first 10 minutes Ghostbusters Afterlife, Bond, the new Bond, the official Eon new Bond, and Wonder Woman 80 whatever. Wonder Woman 84. Wonder Woman, I am playing. Wonder Woman 84. So I'm joined as usual by Duncan Casey,
Hola.
of Val Verde Broadcasting. Hola, senor.
Hola.
Yes. Yes. So Ghostbusters, did you give it a crack yesterday? I think we had a little chat on WhatsApp, didn't we?
Yeah, it kind of fell into my lap accidentally, as these things are one to do. While scrolling through Facebook, it was like, Imagid, and I checked it out, and there you go. I sort of watched it on Facebook, which is not the best place, I'm sure. But he asked. I did. I have seen it with mine eye.
With your eyes. So yeah, it's written and directed by Jason Reitman, who of course is the son of Ivan Reitman, director of the original Ghostbusters, and he directed Thank You for Smoking and Sully and a couple of other his in there. So I mean, he's a very competent director. I don't worry about that. And I remember going to see Thank You for Smoking when it came out with Aaron Eckhart, which I enjoyed very much. It's very po-faced, isn't it? It all felt rather serious for a Ghostbusters film, was my overriding impression. I have thoughts on that. That being that when the Ghostbusters remake trailer came out, one of the criticisms leveled on it was like, this is unfunny. So I think they're Sony's safe players, like, okay, we're going to make... I don't think the film is necessarily serious, but I think they're making it look more serious than it is for marketing purposes.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's... Because I gather that all the original cast are back in it as well as their original characters, so it's
it's on brand and in universe. So that's Egon's daughter, the granddaughter is a little Egon-looking girl,
right.
Whatnot.
So it's going to have a lot of allegory in there, I'm assuming. I mean, firstly, you've got the son of the original director. You know, it's all about childhood and legacy and all that kind of thing. I mean, that's pretty in your face. So I suppose there's an element of that. It's all it's quite Spielbergian in the way it kind of looks, and it's about kids. It's also dipping its toe and indeed its whole foot really into the whole kind of Stranger Things thing. Obviously Finn Wolfhard is in it. He's he just seems synonymous with these kinds of things at the moment. And yeah, it's very much leaning into that kind of nostalgia thing that we're also loving.
Well, and that's we're going to be talking about that very much in Wonder Woman 84 in just a moment, because that's doing exactly the same thing. I mean, yeah, it's very Amblin, Joe Dante, Steven Spielberg in its setup, not necessarily in its visual style. Well, no, so it is in its visual style, but it's not kind of doing the 80s thing in its visual style, which is what Wonder Woman is doing. But we'll get to that. But yeah, it's all very kind of epic-y and sort of portentous. Yeah. And I'm sort of like, I'm pretty sure Ghostbusters is meant to be funny, guys. I see why they're doing it, because like, I did not like the Ghostbusters previous one, and I don't have any political axe to grind. It was just a parade of really unfunny improvised jokes that got really grating very quickly, and it's in that kind of Paul Feig thing. So yeah, whatever. In terms of it being a Ghostbusters film, it's very much leaning into the fact that it's a true sequel, which never goes wrong. And
this is the real one. This is the real number 3.
Yeah,
that's worked out really well.
I mean, if I was going to put a modern actor into a Ghostbusters film, I would definitely put Paul Rudd in
it. Excuse me.
Pardon me. Hello.
Yeah. What do you mean, Paul Rudd?
No. I don't work for Sony, so
why not? Yes, no, I agree. I do. I mean, for me, I'm more Paul Rudd more of the time. For me, I'm a big fan of his anyway. So yeah, it makes total sense. And it's like perfect for him, because it's sort of, comedy. His comedy chops are unequivocal. So.
Yeah, and I think he fits into that. Well, firstly, he's clearly influenced by all that stuff from back then, and his career even kind of loosely overlapped with that period, because he was doing Clueless and stuff in the early 90s, and that was when that kind of 80s, 70s SNL stuff had just rolled to a stop, or a few years prior, if you looked at Ghostbusters 2, whatever. So, and I think his sensibility is very there, in terms of that kind of like dry, laconic Bill Murray type thing. I get it. So that's good, but that's in no way used in this trailer. It's nice that they're dealing with, Egon is dead, and that it's kind of nice that they're dealing with that head on.
Yeah.
Because Harold Ramis is dead, and that's very sad. And that seems to be the head on thing. I'm a bit worried that it has that Luke Skywalker syndrome, in that it appears to be like, well, after Ghostbusters 2, he went and was sad in a farmhouse for 30 years and died. It's like, okay, it might not be that, but that's a worrying trend in all these belated sequels, and particularly dealing with an actual death. It seems very respectful and very nice. They're a bit kind of sad, because it's kind of like, we're I can't remember what she says, but it's like, Mum says we're in the shadow of Granddad's life or whatever.
Yeah, which I was a bit not sure who Mum was, because obviously if it's Egon's kid, then it's not. They're not talking about Dana, Sigourney Weaver's character. No, because I was kind of like, do they mean her or what? But it's called Afterlife. A lazier title would have been Legacy or something, because clearly that's what this is. Very much throwing in your face kind of thing. Visually, the whole I mean, you're so right about it being kind of Force Awakens, in that it literally ends on kind of what the Force Awakens did, which is like kids essentially driving the old vehicle. So a kind of out of control Millennium Falcon becomes an out of control Ghostbusters thing. Whatever it is, it's a hearse, isn't it? Also, it's like, and it's weird because you're watching what was essentially a joke in the first film have all this portent around it, like you say. It's like this dun da da da. It's like meh, meh, and you're kind of going like, that was a joke, wasn't it? That you could only get a hearse, and then it was a recycled joke in the remake that fell really flat, and then now you're turning it into this. No, look, it's amazing, and it's like, right. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to be too shitty about it, because it's kind of, I kind of go, well, I'm fine. I'm so fine for these things to exist in the world. I want people to have cracks at the whip and everything, but it just feels a bit. It could go either way. I don't think this particularly sets out or lays out on the table that this film will be one thing or the other, particularly because clearly there's a lot of stuff missing from it. But could be good. It's certainly thematically a good place to go, I think, to literally make a film about what has happened in the intervening years to all of those characters, and if you may as well make it about what's happened to the actors, essentially. Because I can imagine sort of Vankman being this weird, kooky, washed-up, instead of actor, he's a professor or whatever. He sort of became a bit of a celeb and then became a loser.
He will definitely have the least screen time.
Do you reckon?
Bill Murray is so hard to pin down to this stuff. Yeah. It's so difficult, and I think they're all probably going to, because Annie Potts is back as well, and I think there was talk of Dark Helmet, Rick Moranis, and obviously Aykroyd's going to be back, and Ernie Hudson's going to be back to different degrees. I know Aykroyd's been trying to get a Ghostbusters 3 off the ground for years and years and years and years and years. I think Bill Murray will get like one scene or whatever, and unfortunately, Venkman was kind of the main draw for most people, wasn't he?
Yeah.
I think the thing is they've gone out of their way, because the previous Ghostbusters film and trailer, to my mind, was unfunny and obnoxious, and that's that's all I have to say. It was a super middle of the road, kind of undisciplined SNL type comedy thing, which is kind of what the first one was, but it made it work. I don't know. Whereas I think the marketing approach has been, let's make it serious and let's treat it with a lot of respect, because man, Ghostbusters fans, it's in their fucking blood. Like, Ghostbusters fans take it so seriously, and more power to them. God bless them. That's not a dig. Like the communities of people that dress up, they're at the level of Star Wars fans in terms of building props and having the costumes. And Paul Rudd has that remark, doesn't he? Like, sweet replica, and it's like, oh no, it's not a replica. It's the real deal. Because he's the fanboy surrogate, isn't he? Clearly.
Yeah, definitely.
In it. So I think in terms of like, there is no question about the level of respect it's going to pay. But then that puts you in a situation where you've got Terminator 3 on one hand, and then you've got Terminator Salvation on the other. One is far too irreverent, and the other one is completely one is completely beholden to it and worships it, and the other one just completely disrespects the source material. I said that in a very articulate way. It's quite early.
I agree. Yeah, it's just you do set yourself up for a giant fall if it's such a fine line to straddle. And going back as far as something like Superman Returns, like I say, that saying to an audience, no, ignore that, but remember that, and then appearing to sort of actually not do any of the above thereafter, it just seems a bit kind of
I suppose it's clean enough here, luckily, because it's just like, ignore the last one. It's just like, hey, look, ignore the last one, this is the same characters from the first one. presumably you will have to have seen the other two Ghostbusters films for it to make total sense, but it's a clean slate. Finn Wolfhard, they've done the Stranger Things thing. They're dealing with kind of legacy stuff. I'm sick to death of hearing the phrase "handing over the legacy to a new generation." Oh, shut up!
Passing the torch.
I get it. Yeah, for fuck's sake! And you've heard it so many times. And a couple of D batteries as well on the way out. Well, there you go. I mean, I think that's about what I've got to say about Ghostbusters Afterlife thus far.
Yep.
Are you prepared to move on? To the next film on our list? Let's talk about, and we're very much in your wheelhouse. And this is a Val Verde first. Let's talk about James Bond. Let's talk about James Bond. Yes. No Time to Die.
Yes.
I think you better tee this off, mate.
Tee it off. Yeah.
We're in Duncantown.
D-Town. So obviously this is the we had the teaser for the teaser, and this is supposedly the teaser, but it's actually 2 minutes something. So it's quite. I would say this is more a trailer one type bite-sized thing. I loved it. Let me say that off the bat. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was. It did everything a trailer should do. Got people talking. Didn't give away much of anything. Was very Bondian in how it was done, and so you've got kind of teeing up what happens. It obviously leads off directly after Spectre. You've got this is a trope that seems to I won't say plague, but follow Daniel Craig's Bond around a lot, which is that he has to have disappeared for a while. Yeah,
even I noticed that. It seems like each one. I think the only one I haven't seen. Well, no, that's not true. I haven't seen the first two. I haven't seen Casino Royale, or I've seen the beginning of Casino Royale and of Quantum of Solace, and it seems to be a kind of pattern. And I really, really enjoyed Skyfall, and I've seen Spectre as well, of course.
Right, yeah, we'll have to get you set. I've got obviously got Casino Royale. That is a very good one, so it is worth checking out. But anyway, so I mean, it's putting him in that position. I don't feel that's I feel that's just purely a function of what's come before. I think it's very hard to have him just be, "Hello, I'm back at work, James Bond." Hello,
James Bond.
So fair enough, and certainly, obviously, Cary Fukunaga's directing. We're introduced to the new characters in it as well, predominantly. So you've got Naomi, played by Lashana Lynch, who looks very cool. I think. I mean,
is she the new 007?
Well, it's not expanded upon in the trailer that she's a 00, but they don't explicitly
They say they did. But from what we've heard, that's who is she? I don't know her. What has she done? I didn't recognise her.
The only thing I haven't seen it, but that she was in Captain Marvel. And I believe.
Was she? She was Captain Marvel's mate, the other pilot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So she's. I mean, she might be 007. I know there is a line in the trailer. You see Ralph Fiennes is M saying, "Where's 007?" And then we cut to James Bond in Jamaica, but it's like he's probably not talking about him. He's talking about her. And that's fine. I mean, as I've said this before actually, but firstly, there's precedence for it in the book. The number was given to other agents in Bond's absence, and I think there's even a line in one of them where he says it's just a number. So the only thing I'll say is that if she is 007, it puts a target on her back, because if we're to restore any kind of status quo by the end of this film, and maybe we're not, but I mean, usually in this sort of serialized world of James Bond. That's normally what you do.
Sure.
She's either got to
TV.
be killed or demoted or incapacitated in some way that means he gets it back. I don't know if they'll do that or not. I don't know. I mean, it's as a sort of deconstructionist tool. It makes sense. I whatever.
Well, that was the whole thesis of Skyfall was a deconstruction of Bond, right? And the character's name is James Bond. It's not 007. It's a code name. So I get that. So by taking that away from him, you're removing a piece of him, and you're examining what that means to him if he no longer possesses that and whatever, right? Like it's about his character.
Also, more deeply, the assigning of a 00 number is about removing your name and identity and boiling you down to a number. That's the whole thing of the military, isn't it?
They've given you a number and taken away your name.
Yeah. So I mean, exactly. So it's a kind of thing of like he's essentially regained himself potentially. I don't know. There's lots to be done with that, and it's absolutely fine with me. It doesn't explicitly say in the trailer whether she is or not, but there's some great shots of her. There's a really great shot of her sort of just disappearing into the dark, which looks really cool. Whatever. Why not? You've got Ana de Armas, of course, looking very cool and sexy. Not much of her, but there's a lot of dual wielding going on with her character that looks very cool.
Okay.
There's some incredible stunt work in there as well. Obviously, Bond jumping off the bridge and doing the big motorcycle thing up the stairs. That looks amazing. I believe that to be what I think they're going to do is a bit of a golden eye, which is to have all that stuff in Matera in Italy will be the opening sequence. And then I think after the credits, after the pre-titles, after the titles, there will be a time jump of something like 5 years to now he's in Jamaica. Because I think the idea is that Madeleine Swan has a secret past, which I think is Rami Malek's character, who they haven't said is Dr. No, but I think there's enough ambiguity. He could be.
Oh,
he could be Dr. No.
Right, okay,
yeah, Dr. No.
Okay. Doctored out.
Yeah.
Oh shit, yeah, because I guess... Well, yeah, I mean, the whole thesis of these things has been to create consistent continuity, right? And then Craig's going to have to go at some point, but to try and have a consistent continuity, and they've taken their time bringing in the main things, and they've tried to treat Blofeld as kind of the Joker type, which they love to do with characters, in that your character has to have an antithesis, and he's back in a kind of Hannibal Lecter Magneto cage, isn't he?
Yes, he is. Yes, which I think is largely expository. I don't think he's in much of it, but either way, I'm glad that they've done that because it's nice to have. Obviously, I could listen to Christoph Waltz read the phone book, and yeah, Aaron A. Aronson. But yes, so I'm more than happy with that. Yeah, I think that because I think the only time you see Rami Malek's character, so firstly he's in what I think is a flashback in the in the snow, and there's been behind the scenes stuff of him chasing a little girl across the ice, which I think is supposed to be Madeleine as a kid, because there's dialogue in Spectre about how a man came to visit her father, who's Mr. White, and he didn't know that he kept the gun under the sink or whatever. So I'm guessing as a kid she probably, it caused him his injuries and stuff, and that's why he's sort of out for revenge with her. But you don't ever really see his hands. I think he's wearing gloves, obviously, in that flashback stuff. And then later on, he's kind of sat on his hands, or you don't really see them as much. And obviously, Dr. No had metal hands, so I'd be interested to see that. Dr. No's dealio as well in Dr. No is nuclear proliferation and extortion, for that is one of the cornerstones of Spectre. What is it? Special Executive for Counterintelligence, Terrorism, Running Around, and Extortion. And
I'd like it to have executive in it twice.
Yes,
it ends with executive.
I've never understood, because the SP stands for special, but then the rest of it's
it's fucking like unit in Doctor Who. It's like the UN starts for unified. It's like, hold on, I love an acronym, but don't pull the other one. Unified Intelligence Task Force. No, I think it used to be United Nations. I'm talking about Doctor Who. So
it's a bit of a jump. I mean, I think it's a jump because obviously they got Spectre back for Spectre, because that was all a rights issue thing, and I think up until that point they'd had Quantum, and then they had like Silver and stuff from Skyfall.
So they were kind of subbing things in.
Yeah, so I think they're kind of going, let's get back to Spectre, which is Dr. No was a member of Spectre.
So this is why you're here. This is good stuff. I don't know any of this. This is
but I think it looks good. I mean, you have the great thing is, from your perspective, I mean, what did you think, as in terms of a casual sort of cinema goer? What do you think it looked like? Did you like it?
I like Carrie Fukunaga. Carrie Fukunaga. I've only seen Maniac, on the Netflix series with Emma Stone and your man. Yeah, everyone knows what I mean. I thought that was really, really great. I really, really, really liked that. So my main thing, I've got to say, I really like the current lineup in the Bond films. I really like Naomi Harris. I really like Ralph Fiennes. I really like Daniel Craig. Bond films are not for me. I really like Skyfall as a standalone. This one, I'm not going to lie, I kind of looked at it and went, Bond goes on holiday, Bond has a mysterious villain, Bond. It's not really doing anything for me as it stands because I'm an ignorant fuck, and that's my bottom line. Is like that's on me. It's not on the film. Owing to who's directed it, I'm kind of interested because it was our man Danny Boyle.
Yeah.
Clearly, his heart wasn't in it. Carrie Fukunaga, like I say, I really, really like what I've seen, and it was a 10-part miniseries, which I thought was great. It was kind of exciting and fun, I got to say, and it seemed to be shaken up a bit. So watching it, I was kind of like, okay, cool stuff. This is nice. But, Skyfall did that as well, and I enjoyed that, so maybe that's my in. Kind of examining and shaking up the Bond formula, and particularly if it is like he has 007 taken away. So he has his impersonality removed, if you get my drift.
Yeah.
Sort of like a double negative. What does that do to him? That's kind of interesting. I'm down for that.
Yeah. Well, it's what's he been defining himself as? He's given up. Spoilers for Casino Royale, but twice now he's given up his status at MI6 for a woman. First time he was portrayed in that, and it looks like he's being betrayed again in this. But is he? And possibly not, and we'll see. But I think it has echoes. I mean, that's the only thing, is there's slight echoes and repetition going on here. But it's the thing is, and not to, I don't want to bang on about this too much, but the original, so with Spectre, the very first teaser trailer had a reinvention of the On Her Majesty's Secret Service score woven into it. And I think the idea originally, and part of the Sony hacks, was that the script would have essentially ended like On Her Majesty's Secret Service, with him and Madeline riding off into the sunset and then her being killed by Blofeld as revenge.
Right.
I think because of the leaks, they then decided against that. But then obviously they still ride off into the sunset, and you kind of go, well, is the opening of this just going to be that, and then it's revenge mission? Thankfully they're not doing that, and I think they've been quite clear to point that out, because obviously you see that scene later on where they meet again in a corridor, and obviously a lot of time has passed and they have a history, and they broke up. So that's I think this teaser is really good, because it literally says like, no, put that to bed, stop speculating about that. That's not going to happen. This is going to be it. It's not going to be what you think. But it is the perfect teaser for me. It sort of goes, but not quite. And so I don't know what happens, but it's just I think it's really good. So I think they've had to duck and weave a bit and get around certain things that have happened, but I think it'll be good, man. I think if you're a Bond fan, I think you'll like this. I think you will. And
that's who, precisely. And I think that's who's going to appreciate it the most. So I'm glad you're here to do all that, because I could not have handled that. I don't know anything about Bond. I couldn't have handled that. So thank you for that. We've run over a little bit. Just
Sorry.
So you know, one final question in regards to Bond's No Time to Die. How many people are going to be forced to eat toilets, do you think?
Well, I mean, obviously the Bond history, Bond franchise has a great history of toilet eating. I would hazard a guess at something like 12 to 15.
But he's not allowed to. The new 007 has to. Licensed to force people to eat toilets.
Something like that.
Okay, so moving on now to our final discussion of the day, and that's Justin Lee Collins presents Wonder Woman. Remember the 80s, good times. So we're back, Wonder Woman. I really enjoyed the Patty Jenkins' first Wonder Woman film.
Me too.
It was, frankly, in retrospect, very generic, but I think it just handled the characters and the emotional stuff very well. It had a clear sort of, it clearly had one eye on Captain America without trying to do the same thing too much in terms of its, it went World War One, World War Two, etc. But I really enjoyed it. I felt that was a net gain. It had kind of quite a generic third act, but the emotional stuff was really good. And that was the first of the current crop of DC universe movies where it's like, oh yeah, I've actually, unironically enjoyed this without many caveats. So that's really great. I thought it was a very nicely, competently made film. Okay, so I like the first one. I like Patty Jenkins. I like what's going on there. In terms of cinematography, it looks nice and stuff. The whole dressing up in the 80s thing feels slightly desperate and late to the party. Yeah. This is the second kind of Stranger Things style thing we've talked about today. Ghostbusters lay less into it visually, but it has the
Ragnarok as well, though. This is just so leaning into Ragnarok, isn't it? It's like, look at the flashy lights, and it's like,
yeah. And when Ragnarok did it, it was like it was part of the joke.
Yeah.
And it's Taika Waititi, and it was part of the joke. Whereas this, it's just kind of like, hey, again, Justin Lee Collins, top 10, I remember the 80s. What happened to space operas? Like, it's, and it's got, because, if you have to go far, and it's something that's done really, really well in a lot of places. Like, people make a 80s style intro to Game of Thrones or The Walking Dead with the VHS effects and stuff and whatever. And that's fine. But, that was stuff people were doing 4 years ago on Facebook.
Yeah.
And this is not, the film itself looks like fun. I'm into it, but the marketing stuff and the fact it's called 84, and I'm not really sure. I'm guessing because Chris Pine's back and stuff, there needs to be something really important that happens to Wonder Woman in 84 that's worth us watching, which is fine because she's Wonder Woman. We know she's not going to die, so it's a prequel to what we've seen in Justice League. But I don't really see why it needs to be set in the 80s beyond the fact. Remember Dealey Boppers, remember the shopping mall, new Coke, right?
Remember bags, Steve Rogers,
yeah, right. So, in terms of its own content, I know this is the marketing is making it look like that. I think the film itself obviously is going to have lots of big hair, Ronald Reagan, Duran. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That was something that we've talked about before, and we did a video about nostalgia stuff. Like, that feels... It's got to be reaching its end. It has to be, like it has to be. The nostalgia for the 70s lasted about 10 years. The nostalgia for the 80s has been going on for about 20 years, twice the length of the actual fucking decade.
Yeah, well, quite. Yes, I think it'll only take one. I think that at the moment it's only going to take one thing to sort of tip the scales, and if something comes out and gets it wrong. I say Thor Ragnarok purely in terms of its score and imagery. Thor Ragnarok obviously wasn't set in the 80s, but it played in that pool, and even involved actors like Jeff Goldblum, who is arguably a sort of star of the 80s. So it kind of had that going for it. And was part of the joke, as you say. With this, you've kind of got, it just looks like a veneer that's been slapped on it. It doesn't look, and just because again, it's difficult because you kind of go, well, I think what they've done, Warner Brothers can be accused of kind of just spreadsheet making films and going, these things play in our demographics, like put them in a film, kid. And it's like, well, to what, why? And so in this, you've kind of got there's the role reversal. I don't know how. What's his name comes back? Chris Pine.
Captain Kirk.
Chris Rogers. I don't know. Not Chris Rogers. What's his name?
Steve Trevor.
Steve Jobs. What? Steve
Jobs. Yeah.
I don't know. Michael Wazowski. So he obviously he's back alive. Whatever. I don't like that, but fine. Because again, it's that thing of like, oh, but he's not dead, and it's like, right. So his death has no weight. You've just robbed the other film of its emotional core. But whatever.
And I guess because this is about her tragic past, I guess that he'll die again because we haven't seen him in. I guess I don't know. This is a thing.
But he's now the fish out of water, whereas she was last time, and so she'll have to show him around the world. No, isn't that nice? And
this trailer needed more record scratches in it.
Yeah,
this time he's the fish out of water.
I hate to be cynical about it though, because as you say, and I certainly really enjoyed the original. It really brought a tear to my eye watching it in the cinema, and I couldn't tell you why. It wasn't necessarily the love story. I was just like. I got the feels. I
absolutely got the feels, and as you know, I'm a cold-hearted, emotionless monster. So I really felt the emotional stuff in that movie for whatever reason.
Yeah, it was really weird, but I thought it was fantastic, and so I want them to recapture that again. Like, I don't understand the 1984 stuff. Good year, this year I was born, but apart from that, I don't really get it. I guess it's like Terminator. They'll blatantly walk past the cinema and it'll be like the Terminator. And,
god, yeah.
The Terminator.
Hey, kids.
It's sort of like, if you're not going to do anything with the period setting, why go to that expense? Because it's very expensive to do those things. But they do look lush. I will say this certainly about the first film as well, being a period set film. It's got a much more expensive feel than even things like Batman vs Superman, where they've spent an utter ton of money, and indeed Justice League, and it's all very green screeny, whereas this doesn't look like that.
I will say that, and in terms of the period setting, it looks great. Yeah, it looks really great. But the fact is, we've seen that so many times in the last few years. Because that's the thing. Like, Ragnarok did not have a period setting. It had a fantasy setting that used sort of aesthetics perhaps of that period, but it didn't have a period setting. Yeah. Whereas this is like, let's recreate an 80s mall. Everyone's got big hair, Dealey Boppers, Justin Lee Collins, etc. Like, it's and they've done that really well. It's not a cheap thing to do. You've got all these kind of period cars, like period cop cars, period cop uniforms, period dress, just invoking that mood, which is fine, but also to what end? And also, it's nothing new. Like transplanting a character we know and love, I guess, into the 80s. It's nothing new. Like you're not offering anything that I haven't seen. And the other kind of the thing, these are kind of vexed. The question that hangs over them is, so Batman is being rebooted in a different continuity, it seems like. So Affleck Batman is done. Henry Cavill, ? Doesn't look good, but could still happen. Shazam is a going concern, made a bunch of money. Aquaman, despite everything I hear, made a bunch of money. Wonder Woman, going concern, making money. So the DCEU project seems to have dropped off a cliff. But little individual kind of enclaves of it are still profitable and enjoyed by the public. So they're still going. So, because now we've got Joker coming out, and then we're going to have the Matt Reeves Batman with a new Batman and a new everyone in it.
Yeah. Which it's not going to be in the Joker world, I don't think. I think it's going to be a complete standalone thing. So.
No, yeah, I think because their thing now is to do things as kind of little islands, which I think serves them well because it seems to be doing really well for them. And DC's always been good at its Elseworld stuff, So it's hard to know what your investment is in the ongoing continuity. It's still got more bloody continuity in it than the frickin' X-Men films ever did. I mean, regardless of the quality of the individual entries, at least it's got some kind of continuity up to a point.
Yeah.
But it's hard to know what we then invest in it because it's finite, it seems, or I don't know. Because a lot of you can argue that there even being a Wonder Woman 2 could be in relation to the momentum of the first one and the other stuff they had in place. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. This time she's got more gold on her. She's more goldy.
Oh god, yeah. And she listens to the Bangles. Oh, Duran, shawadi waddy. Yes, man. So. Well, I think we'll stop that there because you've got to go walk your dog.
I do.
There's a peek behind the curtain. There's real life encroaching on I'm not going to say art. That's a stretch, isn't it? Well, there you go. There's our trailer, December trailer roundup. So let us know what you think. Comment below. You guys always do. Chime in. Thumbs up, thumbs down, like, share, subscribe, social media. A bunch of links below. You can use our Amazon storefront, Facebook, Twitter, all that shit. We're not on TikTok because we're too old. So that's your lot. Thanks very much for tuning in. New episode every Monday and random episodes like this, often on Wednesdays, sometimes on Tuesdays or Thursdays. Who knows? Those are all days in the middle of the week. Thank you for joining us. Duncan, I'm going to say goodbye. Do you want to say goodbye too?
I will say goodbye too.
Ciao. Goodbye. Support your 7th or 8th favourite YouTube channel by buying crap, tat, junk, hogwash and filth at redbubble.com/people/Val Verde Shop.